America's Most Wanted is the most successful show in television history at catching America's most dangerous fugitives.
Tonight, his luck runs out.
More than 1,100 captured thanks to your tips. And tonight, we need your help again. To bust the most ruthless fugitives on the run today, who may be living right next door to you. First, Maurice Nesbitt, an abusive wannabe rapper convicted of brutally murdering his ex-girlfriend.
As long as he's on the loose, everyone around him is in danger.
Police say he's armed, dangerous, and could be looking for his next victim. Then, Josephine Overacre, a suspected domestic terrorist, wanted for more than 40 violent attacks across the country.
Terrorism is terrorism.
She's evaded authorities for more than 25 years. Have you seen her? Finally, Frederick Arias, a former cop who police say stole millions from the people who trusted him most.
My uncle, my brother, and my grandma, he literally left them without a penny.
Now, this scammer's on the run, and it's time to bring him to justice. Tonight, you're our best shot at catching these dangerous fugitives. This is America's Most Wanted.
Welcome to America's Most Wanted. I'm your host, Elizabeth Vargas, and tonight we have some incredible news. Our catch counter is going up by 2, now 1,189. We tracked down Allison Gracie and Christopher Jones. Just 4 days after we brought you their story, they are behind bars in Madrid, Spain.
Right now, the wheels are in motion. Coast Guard special agents are already writing out affidavits for extradition to be provided to the country of Spain. We need to get them back to the United States so they can face charges.
On December 18th, 2011, Amy Rhodes went on a scuba diving trip in Key Largo, Florida at Scuba Shack, a business owned by Allison Gracie and Christopher Jones. Disaster struck. The tour boat sank and Amy drowned. Records show the dive boat failed multiple inspections, but Gracie and Jones did nothing to fix the safety problems. After Amy's death, they left the country.
They've been unwilling to come to the United States and answer for the allegations against them.
They are charged with involuntary manslaughter. Gracie and Jones have been arrested twice in the past. Both times they managed to get away. But now they're behind bars in Spain.
You can only run from the United States for so long, and hopefully the third time's a charm.
Amy Rhodes' family has been waiting nearly a decade for this moment.
Amy and those of us that loved her deserve for those who were responsible for her death to face justice. Whoever helped bring these two into custody, I and my family, we're all very grateful.
Allison Gracie and Christopher Jones have finally been captured. But let's get now to our first case tonight. Maurice Nesbitt wanted to be a famous rapper. His lyrics glorified drug trafficking, gun violence, anti-police rhetoric, and most noticeably, violence against women, which was fitting since he had been violently abusing his girlfriend, Rashawn Jackson, for years.
Rashawn Jackson was a sweet, hard-working woman. She was well-loved by her family and by her co-workers and by her friends. She thought her future was bright until she met Maurice Nesbitt.
We got y'all here to let track, man. You know what I mean?
Maurice Nesbitt was a joke of a rapper trying to break into the Atlanta hip-hop scene.
Sometimes we up, man, you feel me? But when I get it right.
He put out cheap music videos for his lousy rap songs under his rap name, Mega Ruckus.
Mega Ruckus a problem, you don't want to go through it. Wherever the red dot go, a bullet gon' go to it.
He acted like he was a big deal, rolling in money.
My bankroll so swole, it won't fall.
The reality was that Maurice Nesbitt was an unemployed drug dealer living off of women. And the videos that he made glorified drugs, money, murder. And it ended up showing exactly what type of person he was. Rashawn sadly fell for Nesbitt's act. Things were okay at first, but Nesbitt quickly became more controlling and abusive.
She She worked really hard at a local restaurant, and every time she got paid, she would turn over her check to him.
Rayshawn's mother and sister saw what was happening to her, but the more they tried to help her, the more Nesbitt would isolate her from her family. Maurice controlled Rayshawn completely. He wouldn't allow Rayshawn to have a cell phone. He would make her wait at a payphone just for him to call. He once got so mad that she had one, he forced her to throw the cell phone out of the window and slammed her head against the dashboard. Rayshawn stayed for reasons that a lot of victims of domestic abuse stay in their relationships. He had killed her self-esteem, and she was probably afraid of what would happen if she left. But Rayshawn finally did end it, and she moved back in with her mom and her sister. For the next month, life seemed to be going back to normal. But that happy new chapter sadly didn't last long. Nesbitt was angry that Rayshawn had broken up with him.
On May 27th, 2014, video surveillance shows Nesbitt's car pulling into Rayshawn's complex.
She quietly went to the door and let him in so they could go into her bedroom and speak. She probably told him that they were not getting back together. Things got out of control very quickly. And Nesbitt shot her in the head execution style.
Ma'am, what's the address of your emergency?
My sister been shot. I need ambulance, please.
Okay, is she awake?
No, she been shot.
By that point, Nesbitt was gone.
If you saw Maurice Nesbitt in the Atlanta area in late September of 2017, call us or go to our website right now. Cold case investigator Paul Holes is here. And Paul, we have an AMW criminal avatar of Maurice Nesbitt. What are we looking at here?
Well, Nesbitt is 6'2", 230 pounds. He's got black hair, brown eyes, and he likes to pull his hair back into a ponytail. He does wear a beard, but of course he can change these features while he's on the run. But he has a distinguishing tattoo on his right forearm, those comedy tragedy masks.
Ah, yeah, we can see it right there. All right. Profilers also describe Maurice Nesbitt as a, quote, cobra. What does that mean exactly?
Well, a cobra abuser is an abuser that can lie in wait, show restraint, and when the right opportunity presents itself, will strike out suddenly and violently. Now, Nesbitt was abusing his victim throughout the course of the relationship, using coercive control as well as direct control. She couldn't have a cell phone. When she got one and defied him, he physically assaulted her. And then, when she decided to break up, that's when he showed that cobra characteristic, kind of pulled back, was patient, plotted, and convinced her to let him into her room where he shot and killed her.
Oh, very frightening. Okay, thanks so much, Paul. Maurice Nesbitt is still on the run. If you know anything about him or his location, send us your tips. Go to amwtips.com or call us at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS. We also need your help catching this suspect in this crime alert. Investigators have new information in the murder of a woman in Tomball, Texas. 29-year-old Elizabeth Barraza, known as Liz, was shot and killed on January 25th, 2019, as she was setting up for a garage sale at her home. Newly released video from a home security camera shows a black Nissan Frontier truck pulling up near the home. Someone approaches Liz. It appears to be a woman. Moments later, 4 shots are fired. The suspect runs back to the truck, leaving Liz to die. Just a few minutes later, the suspect drives back by the scene. Take another look. Investigators say the suspect was wearing boots, a dress, and possibly a wig. It may have been a disguise. The video also shows a new view of the killer's truck. It's similar to the one in this photo, a black 4-door Nissan Frontier with a Pro 4X sticker. Investigators say the same truck was seen in the neighborhood the day before the murder. Liz Barraza's husband and family are devastated. They've been waiting 2 years for clues and need your help.
We need justice for Liz. I need justice for Liz.
If you have any information to catch this cold-hearted killer, go to amwtips.com or call us at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS.
Coming up, Maurice Nesbitt shot Rashawn Jackson and left her for dead.
This man is dangerous.
Now, police are on the hunt. But can they catch this cold-blooded killer? And later, authorities say Josephine Overacre is a domestic terrorist who caused tens of millions in damage.
Terrorism is terrorism.
She's been on the run for almost 25 years. We need your tips now.
Welcome back. Maurice Nesbitt has been violently abusing Rashawn Jackson for the entirety of their 6-year relationship. And when she tried to end things on the night of May 27th, 2014, Nesbitt reacted with the utmost level of violence.
On May 27th, investigators say the body of 34-year-old Rashawn Jackson was found inside an apartment on Campbellton Road in Southwest Atlanta.
Rashawn had been murdered, and the obvious suspect was Maurice Nesbitt.
Surveillance video shows Maurice Nesbitt speeding out of the apartment complex moments after the gunshots were heard. Police immediately start to track down that getaway car.
That white Grand Prix that he drove to Rashawn's apartment that night is the same white Grand Prix he used in his music videos.
After searching for almost 2 months, detectives were finally able to locate him. They quickly moved in, apprehended him, and took him into custody.
After spending a few months in jail, Nesbitt's attorney convinced the judge without proof he had cancer. So Nesbitt was released wearing an ankle monitor, which is really unusual for a homicide defendant. The trial began, and Nesbitt was charged with malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. The evidence showed that there was text messages leading up to the incident. There was surveillance footage of Nesbitt arriving at Rashawn's apartment. The crime scene was covered in his fingerprints and blood was everywhere. The entire case was built piece by piece by piece. And based on the evidence, there was absolutely no question that he was guilty. September 29th, 2017, every seat was filled for closing arguments except Maurice Nesbitt's. And we watched the time tick by. 8:30, 9:30. Until we asked the judge to give a call over to the ankle monitoring company and to see where Nesbitt was. He was long gone.
Nesbitt wasn't going to wait around for a guilty verdict. He fled, cutting off his ankle monitor and ditching it along I-75 south of Atlanta.
Today, Maurice Nesbitt was convicted of murder and assault with a deadly weapon, but the DA's office tells me tonight he is nowhere to be found, and his office is very concerned what a convicted killer is capable of doing while he's still on the loose.
Nobody seen him after he left that courthouse.
This man is dangerous. She was abused by this man for years.
What he did to Rashawn Jackson was cold and calculated, and it could happen again. He needs to pay for what he did.
This man has to be caught. He's a murderous fugitive, and as long as he's on the loose, everyone around him is in danger.
Someone has to know something. Someone's had to have seen him. I refuse to give up on this case for Rashawn. No matter how long it takes, no matter what I have to do, if it helps capture Maurice Nesbitt, I'll do it.
If you saw Maurice Nesbitt leaving the Atlanta area in late September of 2017 or have seen him on the run, contact us immediately. Former prosecutor and legal analyst Yodit Tewolde is here. And Yodit, I know a lot of our viewers are wondering why this guy was out on bail when he was accused of murder.
Well, in Georgia, a murder charge doesn't automatically disqualify a suspect from getting a bond if a judge grants one. The court would then look at several factors. Are they posing a danger to society? Are they a flight risk? How strong is the case? Authorities tell us that Nesbitt's lawyer just told the court that his client had cancer and that he needed to be out on bond in order to receive treatment.
But did they ever have to prove that he actually had cancer or needed these treatments?
No. And as a lawyer, I've got to say that's surprising that the court didn't require any type of medical documentation to prove that the cancer was real. So the bond should have been denied or at least made higher, especially given his long history of domestic violence. The court essentially gave him an ankle monitor and sent him on his way.
All right, let's go to the map tracker. Yes. There are several detectives who believe he might still be in the Atlanta area.
That would make sense because he's from there. And if he is there, authorities believe he's living with a woman that he's using in order to get by. Not to mention that ankle monitor was last pinged driving southbound on I-75, which was his last known location. But if he did actually leave town, then Mexico City would make sense because Nesbitt's mother and other family members may live there. So this could be an anchor point for that location. Not to mention, he speaks Spanish, so it makes it easier for him to blend in with locals. But we don't have any recent sightings of him tying him to that location. He may also be in West Palm Beach, Florida, because he has family there, so it's possible he's there.
Okay. Either way, we know that the most dangerous time for victims of domestic violence is when they are trying to break up with their abuser.
Yes.
And in this case, that's just what Rashawn was trying to do.
Yes. On average, a victim tries to leave the relationship 7 times before they actually do.
Wow.
When someone's getting abused, they should tell someone. It shouldn't be made a secret. They should document the abuse, take pictures, write down when the incidents occur. Domestic violence shouldn't be tolerated under any circumstances, and people should go to the police.
Report it.
Yes.
Document it. All right, Yodit, thank you so much. And if you or someone you care about is in an abusive relationship, you need to know that there is help out there. Please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. Joining us now is Salida Griffin, Deputy Chief Assistant District Attorney in Gwinnett County, just outside Atlanta. Ms. Griffin, thank you so much for being here. And I got to ask you what it was like for you that morning when Maurice Nesbitt didn't show up in court as you were awaiting the verdict of a trial you worked really hard on.
I think initially we were all shocked that he didn't show up. And, you know, those feelings just turned to frustration and anger. We had worked so hard on the case. The family had to relive that night. And we were hoping, you know, that day would bring some closure to the family and that they could finally get justice for Rashawn.
So frustrating. I know that you agree with some of the detectives who are working on this case that he might still be in the Atlanta area. And you also thought he was so arrogant, he thought he could get away with it.
I don't think he's smart enough to concoct a plan to leave because nothing has happened to him. He has faced no consequences for what he did to Rashawn, and I just don't think he thinks the law applies to him.
What would it mean to you to catch him now?
It would just be a feeling of relief that he's off the street. It would give the family closure. He is a violent, abusive man, and I think that any woman that comes in contact with him is in danger. He's been convicted of murder. He's been sentenced to life, and he needs to start serving his time.
Salida Griffin, the prosecutor in this case, thank you so much for being with us today. We hope we can help catch him and finally bring him to justice. Have you seen Maurice Nesbitt? If you live in or have been to the Atlanta area, to Mexico City or West Palm Beach, and his face looks familiar, he is dangerous and we need him in custody. Send us your tips. Go to amwtips.com or call us at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS. And now we need your help with this crime alert and to find this suspect. A violent robbery is caught on camera in the Bronx, and police need your help finding the suspects. It happened on March 12th at the Tumble and Dry Laundromat on East 136th Street in Mott Haven. Watch as the suspect strikes a 30-year-old worker in the back of the head with a gun. He then brings the worker into the bathroom at gunpoint and holds him there, while a second suspect steals $1,500 from an office. Take a good look at their faces. The first suspect is between 25 to 30 years old, 5'8" to 5'11", 170 to 180 pounds. The second suspect is 5'2" to 5'5", between 120 to 130 pounds. He was carrying a black and gray bag. If you know anything about these two men, go to amwtips.com or call us at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS.
When we come back,
terrorism is terrorism.
The FBI is offering a $50,000 reward for Josephine Overaker. Every member of her terror cell has been caught, except for her. Can you help us find this suspected domestic terrorist? And later, police say a former cop turned to the dark side, stealing millions from the people who trusted him most. Now, he's on the run. Have you seen Frederick Arias?
We're back with more America's Most Wanted. Authorities have many names for the fugitive in our next case: eco-terrorist, radical environmentalist, animal rights extremist. But no matter what you call her, Josephine Overaker was allegedly part of a group that destroyed more than $44 million of property in the span of just a few years.
In the early 1990s, Eugene, Oregon was the center of the environmental movement for the United States. One of the well-known protesters was Josephine Overaker. She was an anarchist, environmental, and animal rights protester.
Overaker grew up in California. She was a loner and became disillusioned with society at an early age. So it was easy for her to fall in with protest movements.
Overaker first showed up on our radar when she was at the front of local protests and local activism.
Overaker was dating Jacob Ferguson. He was a well-known extremist and also anarchist. They put their bodies on the line to stop the commercial logging of the Warner Creek area.
During the logging protest, Josephine and Jacob got close with the other protesters. They decided that peaceful, non-violent protests weren't getting enough attention, so they took it to the next level.
One night in October 1996, there was an arson at the Detroit Ranger District in Oregon.
Fuel was dumped on several Forest Service trucks. Incendiary devices were placed around the building.
This was the first major arson committed on behalf of the Earth Liberation Front. From 1996 to 2003, this group committed dozens of arsons, from Portland, Oregon, all the way to Long Island, New York. They were literally covering their tracks, sweeping tire tracks away from scenes.
As the ELF committed more crimes, they got smarter and more sophisticated, and they were emboldened to take even more risk.
These arsons burned so hot and fast, it destroyed most of the evidence.
Because of the lack of specific evidence at the crime scenes, authorities couldn't link the arsons to any individual, so Overaker and Ferguson went undetected for years. Overaker and her cell were committing arsons all over the country, but it wasn't until the Vail arson in Colorado in 1998 that they got everyone's attention. The arson was well planned. Months before, Overaker and others moved gasoline and diesel halfway up the mountain to the ski resort, and they buried it so that it would be close to the arson location without being discovered. The arson was extremely successful. It burned down the lodge and several other buildings. National media picked up the story.
Federal agents from the FBI and ATF are in Vail, Colorado to investigate what the fire department was calling arson, which is the costliest act of environmental terrorism in American history.
When the smoke cleared, one group boldly took the credit, the Earth Liberation Front. No one has been able to prove who the Earth Liberation Front is. They'll be hard to find and hard to prosecute.
Josephine Overaker called her bombings and fires activism. But that's an ideology shared with domestic terrorists.
Terrorism is terrorism, including acts of domestic terrorism in the name of the environment.
If you saw Josephine Overacre in the late 90s or early 2000s in Colorado, Oregon, Washington State, or anywhere else, call our tip line or go to our website immediately. Yodit is back, and we have our AMW criminal avatar of Josephine Overacre using age progression because she's been on the run for a long time.
Yeah.
What are we looking at?
So Overacre is now 47 years old, 5'3", at about 130 pounds. She's got brown eyes and graying brown hair. She's also got some distinguishing marks, including scars on both of her ankles, right calf and right thigh.
She also has some distinctive tattoos on her back. We're going to spin the avatar around to show them to you.
Yeah, so starting there with her upper left arm, you can see there's a large tattoo of a bird.
And a bird in flight in the middle between her shoulder blades.
Right.
But they're big and they're noticeable.
Absolutely.
Okay. We know that the FBI launched the biggest eco-terrorism investigation in the history of the FBI into Josephine Overacre and her group. Every member of the group was caught except Josephine.
Yeah.
What charges would she face if she were caught now?
She's facing 19 felony charges and up to life in prison. Now, the group that she was a part of were responsible for over 40 criminal acts over 6 years with self-made firebombs. And that resulted in over $45 million in damages, which is why the FBI is offering a huge reward, $50,000, for any information leading to her arrest. They really want to get her.
All right. Thank you so much, Yodit. Authorities need your help to find Josephine Overacre. Take another look. Does she look familiar? Go to our website at amwtips.com or call us at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS. Any information helps.
Coming up, authorities say Josephine Overacre committed dozens of terrorist acts across the country.
We're getting word of a global manhunt underway for some of the most wanted terrorists in the U.S.
But will she also kill for her cause? And later, police say this former cop stole millions of dollars from Christian donors, including his own family. Now, Frederick Arias is on the run, and we need your help to find him.
Welcome back. And our second case, a massive, pricey ski resort in Vail, Colorado, has exploded into flames, causing tens of millions of dollars in damage. Authorities immediately suspect arson and that Josephine Overacre is involved.
The authorities were not only baffled, they were frustrated by the fact that there was no actionable evidence at any of these crimes.
We're getting word of a global manhunt underway for some of the most wanted terrorists in the U.S. 4 multi-million-dollar homes in the state of Washington torched. The culprits left a spray-painted sign behind with the initials ELF, which stands for Earth Liberation Front.
No one has been able to prove so far who the Earth Liberation Front is. They'll be hard to find and hard to prosecute.
Overacre and her group used violence and intimidation to terrorize so many communities.
The threat of a return visit by the terrorists isn't good news. Tourists are worried and angry.
Maybe they're going to go to Aspen or Breckenridge that, they don't know what's going to happen to them.
I'm going to say sick. Well, first of all, they are sick to do something like that.
People were terrified. If Overacre wasn't stopped, it was only a matter of time before she'd have blood on her hands.
With the large number of arsons that we were investigating, we decided to take a step back and focus on one single arson, the Romania Truck Center in Eugene, Oregon. When we went back and started reviewing that case, the night of the arson, we discovered Jacob Ferguson was the named suspect in a truck being stolen nearby. This was one of the first times we were able to actually place people real close to the time and location of one of the arsons.
Jacob agreed to come in and talk to the FBI. And it was during that meeting that Jacob was offered immunity if he became an FBI informant.
Operation Backfire, which is still the largest domestic terror case ever in the U.S., got a break in 2005 when they arrested one of the anarchists and bluffed about how much they knew. Jacob Ferguson agreed to cooperate and wear a wire, meeting with cell members one by one.
Federal prosecutors were able to get Jake to wear a wire, travel around the country as part of a team, and record the conversations of his fellow arsonists. These conversations between Jake and his accomplices, including Josephine Overacre, gave the FBI everything they needed to then go out and roll them all up.
More than 14 convictions so far, but one anarchist says the fight for the planet is far from over.
They caught everyone involved, except for Josephine Overacre. The last known location of Josephine Overacre was in 2004. On suspicion that she was returning to Eugene, Oregon on a bus, authorities stopped that bus at a rest area. But Josephine had exited the bus already, and that's the last time anyone ever saw her.
There's indications that Overacre may have been in Europe, in Germany, and in Spain.
Overacre left a trail of calculated destruction and violence, wreaking havoc on far too many lives. Whether you burn down a ski resort or blow up a federal building, an act of domestic terrorism is an attack on the American people, and it cannot be tolerated. Josephine Overacre must pay for her crimes.
Have you seen Josephine Overacre? If you have, call us or go to our website. There's been an intense manhunt for Overacre for many, many years now. Paul Holes is here, and Paul, she's the only one in her cell who hasn't been caught.
Well, and she's going to be particularly hard to catch. She's used to living this simple, crude lifestyle. She can stay off the grid for an extended period of time. However, as far as anchor points, in Oakland, California, she has family, including a mother, though authorities don't know if she's been in touch with any of them. And then one of her cell members was caught up in British Columbia. She could be up there.
There's also evidence that she might have traveled to Europe.
That's right. Authorities believe she used a stolen passport and made it all the way over to Germany, and from there settled down into Spain. What's notable, she's this missionary type offender. She will commit crimes to support her personal philosophy, and in 2006 in Madrid, Spain, some dogs were stolen from a testing facility and her terror cell claimed responsibility. So authorities believe she was possibly associated with that crime. And today, she may still be communicating with individuals that have that same mindset, and she may be involved in more crimes at this point in time.
Unbelievable. Okay, Paul, thank you so much. It is time to bring Josephine Overacre to justice. If you have any information about her or have seen her in any of the places we just listed, go to amwtips.com or call us at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS.
Next, have you seen Frederick Arias? Police say this cop-turned-criminal stole millions and is on the run, evading authorities for years. We need your help to uncover this corrupt cop.
Welcome back. Now to our next case, Frederick Arias, a former police officer and undercover detective who authorities say scammed Christian donors out of millions of dollars and even stole his own parents' life savings.
In 1987, Fred Arias worked as a patrol officer in Maricopa County. People that knew him say that he was a good cop. In 1998, Arias got promoted to detective. His undercover work led to some of the more significant drug busts during that time.
My dad, he was the most secretive person I've ever met. Never knew if he was in Arizona, out of the country, what was going on.
Arias retired in 2008.
When he told me that he stopped being in law enforcement, he seemed kind of desperate.
All those years of undercover work still had a hold on him.
Approximately 2 months after Arias left law enforcement, I see a red Mercedes. I recognized the car, so I got on my cell phone and I called Arias, and he was telling me he was going to Tucson to purchase AR-15s and was going to come back and sell them. Fred was having a midlife crisis.
In June of 2015, Arias is introduced to Bradley Tennyson. Throughout the course of several meetings, Arias and Tennyson hit it off. They come up with a mutual endeavor called the Joseph Project. It was a humanitarian fund catering to the ideals of the Christian audience, promising to build wells in Africa.
The premise behind it is that people would invest their money, they would get a return on their investment, and additional proceeds would go to fund these humanitarian projects.
Over the next few months, Arias is introduced to potential financiers via Tennyson's connections.
Tennyson and Arias started pitching the Joseph Project to investors in October of 2015. Over the next 9 months, the Joseph Project brought in over $9 million from a dozen investors.
In 2016, my dad was like, buddy, get your passport, not only for you, but your whole family. And depending on how things go, you're going to have to move out of the country. I was like, why? And he's like, buddy, just trust me. I can't tell you. If something goes down, I need you to be ready. That was the moment where I'm like, what is going on?
Fred Arias wired approximately $8 million to bank accounts outside the United States. He bought $1 million in silver coins, and he spent about another $1 million on personal expenses.
Some of these investors had used their retirement accounts, their life insurance. They didn't have money to lose.
My uncle, my brother, and my grandma believed in him. He didn't just take their money, he took all of their savings. And my grandma's condo in the Dominican Republic, she was literally left without a penny.
Eventually, an investor filed a complaint against Bradley Tennyson, and that's when the gig was up.
He agreed to cooperate with law enforcement, and he provided information about the Joseph Project and about Arias' role in it.
The FBI caught up with Arias in Kirkland, Washington, and arrested him. After sitting in jail for just a few days, Arias posted the $100,000 bond and was released. Arias wasted no time heading straight for the Canadian border. He was long gone.
Arias, as a native Spanish speaker, especially with his knowledge of law enforcement techniques, could fit in any number of foreign countries.
He needs to be held accountable. We will leave no stone unturned. We will do whatever we can to bring him to justice.
If you lived in the Phoenix area in 2019 and have any information about Frederick Arias, call us or go to our website right now. Yodit is back, and we have our AMW criminal avatar of Arias based on photos of him. Tell us what we're looking at here.
So Arias is now 54 years old. He's 5'8" to 5'9", weighing about 210 pounds. He's also balding with graying brown hair. Now, an important note to make here, Elizabeth, is that he used to be an undercover detective, right? So that comes with a special set of skills, including how to disguise himself. So here you can see that he has a mustache. Now, if he's trying different facial hair, you can show the viewers what he looked like without it.
That really changes his appearance.
Now, he also speaks Spanish fluently, which means he could be using accents, pretending to be someone else.
Police say that Arias was targeting members of the Christian community as part of this scam. What does that tell you about his MO and the way he might operate?
Well, profilers say that Arias displays psychopathic traits, right? Like a lack of remorse for his actions, diverse criminal behavior, manipulation. He's really good at letting people feel relaxed around him. Their guards are let down. He's a charmer. I mean, he was able to raise over $9 million for this fake charity organization. So that's what makes him really dangerous.
Those skills are really coming in handy in his life on the run. Right. All right. Thank you so much, Yodit. We're joined now by Frederick's son, Nick Arias. And Nick, thanks so much for being with us. I've got to ask you, you were there as your dad was an undercover detective for many, many years. He was good at his job. He was able to fool other people into believing he was someone else. That's got to be coming in handy right now on the run.
He told me his favorite thing to do was pretend to be a Colombian drug lord. And I mean, he kind of looks apart, you know, he's fluent in Spanish.
Do you have any gut instinct on where he might be right now?
I want to say he's in the Dominican Republic because he's more familiar with that because he grew up there for a while.
Interesting. All right. On the chance that your dad is watching our program tonight, what would you say to him?
This might sound selfish, Dad, but I want you to turn yourself in just to see you one last time. I don't want you to be somewhere else and end up dying and never see you again. So it'd be great if, turn yourself in, and then unfortunately you're going to go to prison, but at the same time, we can hang out one last time. So.
Nick, thank you. You're an unusual and rare interview. You're not only the victim of a crime, you're the fugitive's son, and we really appreciate you being here today.
Appreciate it.
All right, thanks so much. Does Frederick Arias look familiar to you? If you've seen him in the Phoenix area, in Canada, or the Dominican Republic, or live in one of those places and know anything about this man, send us your tips by going to our site, amwtips.com, or call us at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS.
Coming up, a young mother goes missing in Florida. Her family is desperate for answers. Have you seen Lauren DeMolo? Authorities need your help to find her.
A young mother is missing in Florida and her family is desperate for clues. 30-year-old Lauren DeMolo disappeared last summer. Now police are releasing new details in the case. This is surveillance video from June 18th, 2020, when Lauren went to apply for a job at the Speedway gas station on Coronado Parkway in Cape Coral, Florida. You can see her talking to the clerk. She gets an application and then leaves. She hasn't been seen since. Lauren's black bag was found on June 19th at Four Freedoms Park near her apartment. Her shirt was found at the same park near the water a few weeks later. Take a good look at Lauren DeMolo. She's 5 feet tall, 110 pounds. She's got blonde hair with brown roots and brown eyes. Lauren has several tattoos, including the word Namaste on her right side and the Om symbol on her wrist and rosary beads on her ankle. If you have any information, even the smallest detail, please call. Our number is 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS or go to amwtips.com. Before we go, let's review the fugitives you should be on the lookout for. Maurice Nesbitt, an aspiring rapper who went by the name Mega Ruckus. He was last seen in Atlanta the day before he was convicted for the murder of his girlfriend, Rashawn Jackson, who police say he had been abusing for years. He's fluent in Spanish and may be hiding out in Atlanta, Mexico City, or West Palm Beach. Josephine Overacre, a suspected eco-terrorist who authorities say helped plan and carry out attacks that caused more than $44 million in damage over the course of several years. She was last seen in Oregon and has been on the run for more than 25 years. The FBI is offering $50,000 for information that leads to her arrest. And Frederick Arias, a former police officer and undercover detective. Authorities say he got investors to give him $9.5 million for a charity that didn't exist, and then wired that money to overseas accounts before fleeing in 2019. He was last seen at a train station in Canada. The FBI is offering $25,000 for information leading to his arrest and conviction. These past 5 weeks, we've gotten hundreds of tips and helped victims and their families get their messages out to the world, and even captured 3 dangerous fugitives along the way. But others are still on the run right now, and we need your help to find them. You at home are our favorite detectives. Keep an eye out and send us information about anyone you've seen on the show at amwtips.com or call us at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS. I'm Elizabeth Vargas. Thanks so much for watching. And remember, fugitives, we're coming for you.
America's Most Wanted is the most successful show in television history at catching America's most dangerous fugitives.
Tonight, his luck runs out.
More than 1,100 suspects captured because of viewer tips. Now, we are back. And we need your help again to catch the most ruthless criminals on the run today, putting people at risk every minute they're free. Tonight, you're the detective. You're our best shot at catching these fugitives. We're using incredible new crime-fighting technology and social media, connecting you to us at lightning speeds. All night, we'll be sharing new information about fugitives on the loose right now. Fugitives who may be living a double life right next door. First, Glenn Godwin, a drug kingpin and convicted murderer who broke out of prison not once, but twice.
He committed 2 murders and he has no regrets. He was a sociopath.
Next, Eugene Palmer, who cops say murdered his daughter-in-law in cold blood.
Eugene Palmer can't go on as a free man. Her family deserves justice.
And finally, Jennifer Settle, an unstable mom who abducted her own daughter.
It's been 2 years since I've seen McKenna. I just want to see my daughter again.
Do you recognize her? Tonight, America, we need your help to catch these dangerous fugitives. This is America's Most Wanted.
Hello, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Vargas, and I am so honored to be here tonight, hosting a show that I've watched for so many years. Because of your tips, America's Most Wanted has helped capture an incredible number of fugitives, 1,186 to be exact. And now, starting again tonight, we're going to catch even more. And we're using new technology to do it. Powerful tools that didn't exist when the show first debuted 33 years ago, like our AMW criminal avatars, using police photos and age progression technology to bring our fugitives to life. And our fugitive tracker that closely follows their every move from the scene of the crime to the most recent sightings. Plus, we have a team of expert profilers and investigators, the FBI and U.S. Marshals, all standing by to take your tips in real time. But most importantly, we have you at home, your phones, your videos, your tips. As an investigative journalist, I've covered some of the worst crime stories in America in the course of my career, and I have sat across from the tearful victims, and it is gut-wrenching. That is why I'm here tonight, to get justice for them. America's Most Wanted debuted in 1988 with John Walsh at the helm. John leaves an enormous legacy. I'm honored to follow his lead. In fact, the fugitive in our first case tonight was featured by John Walsh right here on AMW in 1988.
Glenn Godwin has escaped from California's Folsom Prison. In prison, he grew a beard and cut his hair short. Godwin may be carrying a 9mm submachine gun as well as a handgun. Now, the FBI needs your help in locating an escaped killer.
Glenn Godwin, a charming, handsome, convicted killer who escaped prison not once but twice and is still on the run as one of the FBI's most wanted. Take a look at this recreation based on actual police reports.
Glenn Godwin, Point Dickey, Frank Soto, and pilot Kim LaValle had a cocaine and marijuana smuggling operation.
Each of the fellows had a very specific role, but Glenn Godwin seemed to be the ringleader. He had this crew, and he put it all together.
This was a lucrative business. Each flight was worth roughly $100,000. So if they were doing multiple flights per week over a period of several years, we're talking about millions of dollars. Godwin was at that point only 22 years old. He resented the fact that LaValle was making more for his role as a pilot than the rest of them.
Hey, buddy. They lured LaValle to the condo where Glenn Godwin planned to rob him and kill him. Glenn Godwin stabbed him 28 times, commenting that he just wouldn't die.
It was a particularly heinous killing. That night, the three of them pick up the body and transport it to the site at which it was exploded. The body was discovered, then he was captured fairly shortly thereafter.
How stupid it was to leave the license plate. I mean, it led him to him within hours. Glenn Godwin was tried for murder and ultimately sent to 25 to life. Godwin wound up at medium security because they didn't see him as a risk.
After Glenn Godwin's convictions were final in the Court of Appeal, he started thinking about escaping.
Godwin tried to escape and they caught him.
As a consequence of that, they sent him to Folsom, which is a maximum security facility.
Folsom Prison is an old school penitentiary. If a prisoner is not where they're supposed to be, they're fair game for the guys with the rifles up in the tower. Those guys shoot to kill.
He still wanted to escape. He wanted to get out.
Godwin was experienced enough to be able to manipulate people, both inmates and staff. His assignment was changed so that he was given access to a less secure place on the prison.
So here's Godwin, high security inmate, sees all these master plans of the prison. Something clicks in his head. Hey, I need to escape. And I see my way. Godwin tried to do a couple of escapes before and always been caught. But this one's planned out so good.
Lauren Carlick and Godwin were cellmates, and once Carlick ended up getting paroled, Godwin called with his plans to escape.
Being the smooth talker he is, so he gets his wife Shelley. The two of them worked with him on this escape plan. Everything's set up now. It's all ready to go.
Most people don't break into prison. They break out of prison.
Glenn Godwin was about to pull off one of the most daring prison escapes in history, one of the few to ever escape maximum security Folsom Prison. We'll get back to his story, but first I want to point out some important clues to help you catch him. I'm joined now by Yodit Tewolde, former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney in Dallas County. Welcome to AMW.
Thank you.
Let's take a look at the last known photo of Glenn Godwin.
Okay.
It's his mugshot from 1991. He's about 30 years old here. We're going to use our special age progression technology to morph it into what we think he would look like today.
Always so amazing to see.
How accurate is this age progression technology?
It's very accurate. I mean, you have medical illustrators that created this image based on how bones and muscles of the face change over time. So notice how Godwin's skin texture is less smooth, how his nose and his ears kept growing, and how his earlobes dropped.
All right, we're going to use that age progression technology now and marry it with our state-of-the-art 3D avatar of Glenn Godwin standing next to him.
Always so lifelike.
You can learn a lot because one of the first things, he's on the tall side.
Yeah, he is. 6 feet tall to be exact. A pretty lean guy weighing anywhere between 170 and 200 pounds, according to profilers. He's 62 years old and still likely to be in pretty good shape because based on his criminal profile, he's a narcissist, right? So he still cares about what he looks like, even in his old age.
He's a good-looking guy. We know he managed to entice women in the past to help him with crimes. Do we think he's had any plastic surgery at all over the past several years?
Based on his profile, a very slim chance because profilers believe that he's too narcissistic to try and use a procedure to change or alter his looks. Maybe had a procedure or two done just to kind of keep him looking youthful.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Yodit.
You got it.
Throughout the show, we're going to be bringing you breaking crime alerts from across the country. Crimes caught on camera, where we need your help to identify and capture these criminals. You're watching video of an all-female stick-up crew. If you live in Fort Worth, Texas, police need your help to identify these three ladies before they strike again. They all have masks, hoodies, and at least two of them point semi-automatic weapons at the clerk working the Quick Track convenience store. This all went down on Bryant Irvin Road in the Meadows West section. Police say they are so bold they may strike again. And tonight, detectives say if you've seen this small red Chevy sedan, some dangerous women may be inside. Here's another look at them. If you recognize that car, call us with your tips at 833-3-AMW-TIPS or send it online, amwtips.com. Remember, you can always choose to remain anonymous. When we come back, Glenn Godwin is about to break out of one of the most secure prisons in America, and you're going to see how he did it. And a dog napping spree, terrorizing pets and people. Lady Gaga's dog walker, the latest victim. We need your help catching these heartless fugitives when we come back. Welcome back to America's Most Wanted. Take a look at these two mugshots, both of Godwin, taken years apart. He was a man who used, manipulated, and killed to get what he wanted. Nothing was going to get in his way. Not his friends, not a dead body, and certainly not a prison sentence. You're about to see why we need him in custody as soon as possible.
Godwin has nothing to lose trying to escape because he's doing 25s a life. He wants out of Folsom Prison.
When Godwin's ex-cellmate did this, the vegetation had grown up along the river. It blocked the view of the towers, so he was pretty concealed. They put a big steel cage. He had to cut those bars. Karlik was able to work his way all the way back to 2 building. And it was just a matter of cutting the padlock.
Godwin sets his eyes on a new officer, and he says, I work over there in the visiting area. You do? He says, yeah, I do.
Hurry up.
She goes to visiting to talk to other officers. As soon as she walked in, he made his move.
That's the only time in my 48 years of being out at that prison I've heard the alarm go off.
Godwin jumped up the bank, and that's where Shelley was waiting to pick him up. And he was a young dude. He didn't want to die in prison. They made their way down to Mexico where his luck ran out.
In 1987, Godwin was arrested for drug trafficking. He did not want to go back to the United States. He did not want to go back to prison there.
We're doing everything we can to get him back. And he puts a hit in for the cartel, and they put this scheme together to get him out, escape from that prison. Ever since, they don't know where he's at.
Godwin circumvented justice. His victims have not had justice served. He's a dangerous fugitive. But ultimately, all it will take is for him to make the right mistake for us to catch him.
Glenn Godwin has now been on the run for 30 years. I want to bring in Paul Holes, former cold case investigator and part of our team here at AMW. And if you recognize Paul's name, it's because you helped catch the Golden State Killer, who was on the run for 44 years. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're looking at Glenn Godwin, on the run for 30 years. He may be getting sloppy, a little cocky. Show us where he's been on the fugitive tracker and where our audience members should be looking for him.
Yeah, he's initially arrested and convicted in Palm Springs. Then he's placed up at the DVI facility in Tracy, California, and then moved further north to Folsom. He escapes from the prison up there.
All right, and then he crosses the border and goes south to Mexico.
That's right. He next is seen down in Puerto Vallarta, gets placed in a Mexican prison, and then kills a fellow inmate at the order of the cartel. Many may feel that he did a favor for the cartel. Cartel doesn't think that way. He was a tool, and he might be expendable.
All right, but he did that murder for the cartel, we think, to get out of prison. But now he's wanted in both Mexico and in the United States by both governments and possibly by the cartel. Where does he go?
That's right. A logical place is in Miami. He was born there. The large population allows him to blend in. He can make money doing the drug trafficking to support his lavish lifestyle.
All right. And while we have you here, we have a question for you from one of our audience members on Twitter. And it's, what major conclusions do you try to reach in the first 24 to 48 hours of a criminal investigation?
Well, 3 things. Identify the victim, determine a possible motive, and identify a pool of suspects.
And if you're doing that, you're in good shape on that investigation. All right, Paul, thanks. Don't forget to connect with us on social media at Most Wanted on Fox. But if you have any tips on any of these cases tonight, call us at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS or go to our site, amwtips.com. You can always choose to remain anonymous. And right now, I want to get to a crime alert and a growing crisis from coast to coast tonight. There's been a spree of violent dog nappings, and it's not just dangerous for the pets. In North Hollywood, California, surveillance video shows a woman and 2 men going into a home to see bulldog puppies for sale from an ad on Craigslist. Then it gets violent. One of the men runs off with a puppy, another busts out a window and violently shoves the homeowner. She fights back, but the man gets away with another puppy. They take off in a Dodge Charger. Take a good look at the suspects right here. Authorities arrested the woman, but the men are still on the loose. Now to another brutal attack caught on surveillance video in the Russian Hill neighborhood of San Francisco. Sarah Vorhaus was walking her 5-month-old French bulldog, Chloe. Now look at the top left of your screen. 3 men wearing hoodies and masks approach her. One has a gun. The camera is across the street, but you can see the men assaulting Sarah and stealing the puppy. They get away in a Toyota Prius driven by a 4th suspect. As you can see, Sarah was badly beaten. Her puppy is still missing. And just weeks ago, 2 suspects grabbing singer Lady Gaga's French bulldogs in Hollywood. Her dog walker and friend, Ryan Fisher, begging for his life. Moments later, Ryan is shot. The suspects took off with 2 of the dogs. Neighbors called for help.
I saw a white car with doors open, had no idea what was going on.
Ryan was rushed to the hospital. He's still recovering. The 2 dogs, Koji and Gustav, are back home with Lady Gaga, found by a Good Samaritan, while the suspects remain at large. Both are described as men in their 20s. These brazen crimes may have been motivated by money. French bulldogs and English bulldogs can have a price tag of more than $10,000 each.
When we come back, this man has had it with his daughter-in-law, and he's about to kill her. A family feud spirals out of control, and authorities are still looking. Have you seen this man? And if you live near Lake Mary, Florida, armed car thieves on the loose. This doorbell camera catching them in the act. Now, we need your help to catch them. Stay with us.
Welcome back to America's Most Wanted. In our next case tonight, an intense domestic dispute between an angry father and his soon-to-be ex-daughter-in-law ends in explosive violence after he takes matters into his own hands.
Tammy and I grew up in New York. We were 6 years apart. She had a great personality. She was always smiling, always joking around. She had a lot of friends. When she worked in the school districts, all the kids loved her. She was just a great person. When John and Tammy met, they were 16 years old. They were very young. Shortly after they had gotten married, she had her first child, Rosemary, and 3 years later, she had her son, John. She was an awesome mother, always there for her kids, no matter what.
Tammy and John lived on the same family compound owned by John's father, Eugene Palmer. The Palmer family was very close-knit off the grid. Eugene Palmer was the leader of that family, and no one was going to cross that.
So Eugene was the owner of the land, and he wanted to run things his way.
Eugene always looked mean. He always looked nasty. But Tammy respected him. Tammy was living on Eugene's property, and everybody was getting along. Eugene loved living next to the grandkids. Everything was fine. But over time, the marriage started to fall apart. John liked to drink, and he was an alcoholic. John really didn't spend time with his family, and my sister Tammy was raising the kids basically on her own. She had her suspicions about him seeing another woman. John would come home smelling like a certain perfume, and my sister Tammy knew whose perfume that was. He was mentally abusive, and then he started to get physically abusive. One night, she was afraid for her life. John was beyond drunk. Tammy called the cops. She thought she was going to die. The cops arrested John that night. Eugene was furious.
Our department made many visits to the Palmer residence to investigate domestic violence claims. John and Tammy had their issues, and it eventually involved Eugene.
That's when Eugene and my sister Tammy would have confrontations. They started harassing her. So things were brewing and brewing. This guy is like 200-300 pounds. My sister was 5'1", 90 pounds. She was afraid of him.
John and Tammy's relationship got so bad, Tammy filed an order of protection against John. It prevented John from coming onto the property or communicating with Tammy in any way. With John unable to come to the property, which Eugene owned, Eugene was infuriated.
Eugene felt she didn't belong up there if his son wasn't allowed there. Eugene was doing everything he could to try to scare her to get off the property, but that was her home and that was her children's home.
On September 21st, 2012, the bus dropped off Tammy's daughter and Tammy's daughter's boyfriend after school. They walked up the driveway and were approached by Eugene.
He wanted the kid off the property. Eugene said if he doesn't get off the property, there's going to be problems.
Tammy saw what was happening, so she came outside, confronted Eugene. He raised his hand at her, and then she tried to defend herself.
Tammy's friend arrives to pick her up. She hears Eugene say to Tammy, "I'm going to take you down, and you'll see what you have coming to you next week."
On September 24th, Tammy walked her kid to the bus stop. On her way back, Eugene was waiting for her in the woods.
Eugene shot one time, striking her wrist. And we believe Tammy ran around the backyard to get away. Eugene approached her and fired the last shot into her.
After police say he murdered his daughter-in-law, Tammy Palmer, in cold blood, his trail goes cold. Yodit is back, and we're going to use our age progression technology, combine it with our AMW criminal avatar of Eugene Palmer. Here we are.
Yeah.
Tell me what we're looking at.
Well, we're looking at a man who's now 81. When he was last seen, he weighed around 220 pounds. He was about 5'10" and balding. And the last time he was also seen, he was rocking sort of a unique beard that some compared to Abe Lincoln's, but he could have shaved it off, so we could show the viewers what he'd look like without it.
It changes his face pretty dramatically once you see him clean shaven. We also know he was a hunter, an avid or outdoorsman, a guy who was comfortable roughing it, so to speak.
Yeah, and important information for viewers to know because his clothing would likely reflect that. He wore lots of plaids, striped button-down shirts, all-weather boots, jeans, thin-frame glasses, so really important for the viewers to know.
But just in case he has changed the way he dresses, we want our viewers to take a look at something on his left hand because he has a deformed thumb right there. Take a look.
Yeah, very noticeable lump right at the joint of the thumb. Something really important for the viewers to know because they can obviously spot that.
All right.
Yeah.
When we return, where could Eugene Palmer, an elderly man who rarely left the property upon which he grew up, hide? And we're taking your tips tonight. Keep them coming by going to our website, amwtips.com. But first, we have a crime alert coming in and another chance for you to help catch dangerous fugitives. A major manhunt tonight after what this doorbell camera caught on video in Seminole County, Florida. The people going through that car don't own it. The real owners, this family, hears someone going through the car. We're blurring the victims' faces, but you can see that they're running out to see what's going on. The scene of the crime? The villas at Chase Grove near Lake Mary. The family is outnumbered. They find thieves inside the vehicle, and at least two of them have guns. Look at one of them pointing it at them right there. The family members all run back inside as the gunmen chase them. Here's a freeze frame of one of the gunmen masked down so we can clearly see his face. It's a huge clue and a big break for all of us. Someone in the area must know him. Deputies want to get them both off the streets tonight. If you recognize them, call us right away at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS or go to our website, amwtips.com. Welcome back to America's Most Wanted. According to police reports, Eugene Palmer shattered the early morning calm with a brutal attack on his daughter-in-law. As she lay bleeding on the lawn, he set the stage for his next move, a frantic escape.
Eugene Palmer decided to take a shotgun, track Tammy Palmer, and then murder her in cold blood. One of the Palmer's neighbors heard the gunshots and called 911.
911, where's your emergency?
I heard a shot, a lot of screaming, another shot, no more screaming, and another shot.
Okay, 3 shots, and you heard screaming?
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting cars up there now.
We responded immediately to the call. Once the police arrived on scene, they immediately began to look for some kind of evidence or clues as to what happened. Police discovered a couple of shotgun shells and some blood in the area. As they scoured the scene more thoroughly, Tammy's body was found in the backyard. We realized we had a homicide investigation.
I got a white Philadelphia
As we were searching the property for more evidence, Eugene's sister and niece came over to talk to us. They told me that Eugene had just stopped by their house, which is located across the street. He gave them a couple envelopes of money and said, "Pay my taxes." He then told them, "I just shot Tammy. Give me an hour before you call the police." Once we realized that Eugene Palmer is our main suspect, we organized a huge manhunt. Myself and several other officers began to search the wooded area adjacent to his property.
Trying to put together a search of Harriman State Park, as large as it is almost an insurmountable task. The park is over 47,000 acres. This is a massive area to search.
We searched for hours and hours in the woods, on the roadways, and came up with nothing at the end of the first day. The next day we found his vehicle, approximately an eighth of a mile away from their house. It was about 100 yards into a wooded area hidden.
Not far from the truck, police discovered a campsite.
I believe that he was picked up on that roadway where the track ended. Someone helped him escape.
My sister was a great mother. She was a great sister, daughter. She was a good person. She did not deserve what she got from Eugene at all.
Our belief is that Eugene Palmer murdered an innocent woman, and her family deserves justice.
And I want to bring in now Detective Michael Kruger, who is with the Haverstraw Police Department, which covers Stony Point, New York, where Eugene Palmer lived. And Detective, you've been on this case since the first 911 call. What does your gut tell you on where he might be hiding and whether or not he's got somebody helping him right now?
Well, I believe he's had help the entire time. I also believe that Eugene Palmer has been bouncing around different areas over the country. I know he has some ties down south, Florida area. Possibly Georgia. Right now, I believe he may be in the upstate New York region, maybe the Adirondacks, mountainous areas.
And what specific things about his character, his appearance, perhaps, might you want our viewers to be on the lookout for when looking for Eugene Palmer?
He has a deformed left thumb that's very obvious. That right there, I think, will catch him. If someone recognizes that deformed thumb.
Right, we just talked about that and pointed that out on our avatar. I'm curious, Detective, because you've been on this case for so long, what would it mean to you to finally catch Eugene Palmer?
It would mean pretty much everything. That was my first big case that as a detective. I want to bring closure to Tammy's family. I'm just upset that I couldn't find him before Tammy's mother passed away.
Well, Detective, you've put so much work into this. I hope that we can help find him for you. Thank you so much, and thanks for your work on this case. If you're living in or traveling to upstate New York, be on the lookout for Eugene Palmer, because you at home can truly make a difference. Our AMW catch counter currently stands at 1,186 fugitives captured because of your tips. Keep those tips coming by going to amwtips.com. Follow, like, and check out our pages on social media at Most Wanted on Fox. And viewer Matthew Ruskin just commented on our AMW page. I remember the 1,000th capture and the episode when the count hit 1,000. Thanks, Matthew. We're looking forward to catching even more this time around. And we all want that number to grow. So here is another crime alert. Can you help us identify the person in this shocking video footage? Frightening images we hate to see at this self-serve car wash in Littleton, Colorado's Columbine Valley neighborhood. Watch as a man approaches this minivan at the Atlantis car wash on South Federal Circle. As soon as the wash cycle starts, the suspect makes his move. He opens the driver's door and tries to yank a 63-year-old woman from her minivan. Even though the suspect grabs her by the neck, she puts up quite a fight and won't let the suspect win without a struggle. You can see at one point the suspect bites her on the arm. He finally pulls her out and then drives away. Police have a name and a face for the suspect, but need your help to find him. He's 51-year-old Philip Michael Dent. He's 5'9" and weighs 165 pounds with short brown hair and green eyes. Take a good look at his face. Police tell us he's a transient in the Littleton and Lakewood areas of Colorado. There's a warrant out for his arrest. If you have any information, call us. 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS or go to our website, amwtips.com.
When we come back, another case you can help solve right now. Jennifer Settle lost custody and lost control, taking her daughter McKenna and skipping town, and police need your help tracking her down. Plus, have you seen these two brothers in California? They were last seen playing in their backyard 70 days ago. How you can help find them, coming up.
Welcome back. Our next story tonight is about a woman named Jennifer Settle, a mother in a bitter custody battle with her ex-husband. She's now a fugitive on the run.
Jennifer and I first met in around about the year 2005. We hit it off very well.
Jennifer and Michael were very happy. He really adored her.
Several years later, we got married. Jennifer got pregnant with McKenna very early. But after a few months, she started to change mentally.
She was very jealous and possessive. Jennifer insisted that Michael distance himself from any other female in his life.
A lot of these things are just not normal behavior, but you get sucked in because you try to do things to keep her happy.
Jennifer was very controlling. If she needed to hand something to McKenna, she would not allow me to do that. She insisted that McKenna must see it coming from her hand.
She would not allow her child to go to school. McKenna was not allowed to have any other friends. Her mother was her only friend.
I received a phone call from Jennifer announcing that she was moving herself and McKenna back to her parents in Greenville because we were running out of money and I had done nothing to provide for the family.
Jennifer convinced us that he was a danger to both her and McKenna.
She had to paint a picture of me as being abusive, as being manipulating, as being a liar. This gave her the excuse of why she'd undertaken the actions that she had. After about 2 weeks, she stopped communicating with me so I could have no interaction with my daughter.
Michael took Jennifer to court because he wanted to see his daughter. He was eventually granted visitation rights, but Jennifer was not going to have that. So the court determined that Jennifer was an unfit parent for McKenna. The judge was going to give total custody to Michael.
The Greenville County Sheriff's Office were notified that Jennifer had failed to show up at the court hearing. Based on that, an arrest warrant was issued by the family court.
She was seen several days before packing her belongings. The landlord reported that that's the last time he saw her.
She took McKenna and ran.
Witnesses reported seeing her in Oklahoma and Texas. However, I'm not sure that we can confirm that that actually was them.
It's been 2 years now since I've seen my daughter. McKenna doesn't know that she's been brainwashed and mentally abused all these years, and I wanted to protect her from that.
Jennifer has torn our family apart. She took McKenna away from all of us. It's been heartbreaking.
I just want to see my daughter again.
Yodit is back, and we've used some age progression on some of McKenna's old photos. We have an idea now of what she would look like. What should viewers look for?
Well, McKenna was 4'8" the last time she was seen. So we estimate she's about 5 foot now, weighing about 100 pounds with light brown hair. Now, keep in mind, her mother may have changed her appearance, but what folks need to be on the lookout for is a mother-daughter duo.
And speaking of the mother-daughter duo, what do we think Jennifer Settle is looking like this? She's 50 years old now?
She's 50 years old. She's small in size. She's about 5'3". She weighs about 110 pounds, light brown hair, brown eyes. She also doesn't like to wear makeup, so she's more than likely going to be barefaced.
So viewers should be looking for a mother-daughter duo.
Yes.
Mother is petite, fresh-faced most likely. You know, this all raises the question, is she getting help somehow from somebody?
You know, she's gotten financial help before from local churches, so she could be getting sort of the same assistance, or could be getting help from a more sophisticated organization, the kind that helps mother and children shelter them, hide them. And that's assuming that they don't know that she's a wanted fugitive.
All right. Yeah. Thanks so much, Yodit. Let's bring in Paul with our fugitive tracker. And Paul, I've reported on these cases for many years on these underground networks that do help hide mothers and children. If they're helping, they could be anywhere.
Well, that's correct, but if Jennifer's left her own devices, she's going to go where she's familiar, so it's important to understand her anchor points. We know she fled from Taylor, South Carolina with McKenna, but 6 weeks prior, she was up in Baltimore, Maryland. From there, she has had past residence in Chattanooga, Tennessee, as well as out in Bakersfield, California. But she told multiple people she absolutely loved the Denver area. And this is important. Now we have a population center along the I-25 corridor from north of Denver, such as Fort Collins, to south of Colorado Springs. She could be anywhere along that corridor.
All right, so viewers living in that corridor or having been in that corridor should keep a definite lookout, or any of those other anchor points. All right, thanks so much, Paul. And McKenna's father, Michael Butcher, is joining us here in our headquarters. It's great to have you here. I'm sorry to meet you under these circumstances. It's important to note that all the experts appointed by the court, by the judge, all ruled in your favor. Jennifer's own brother and sister are helping you and support you in this bid for custody.
That's true, yes. And Jennifer's had to say that her brother and sister are also corrupt, or whatever the story that she's telling McKenna as well, because she's got to keep up this storyline that justifies her actions over these years.
It's been 2 years since you saw your daughter. If you, on the chance that she might be watching this program tonight, what would you say to McKenna to reassure her? What message do you have for her?
Well, I'd say, McKenna, that you've always had a father that loved you, despite what people have been telling you and the stories that you may have heard. I came looking for you as soon as I could. I love you, McKenna.
All right. Michael Butcher, these stories, these custody battles are heartbreaking and so hard for the children. I hope there's a resolution soon. Thanks so much for being with us tonight. Reminder, Jennifer Settle loves the Denver area. If you're there, be sure to look out for her. AMW has brought home more than 40 children. If you have any information on Jennifer Settle and her daughter McKenna Butcher, contact us here at America's Most Wanted by calling us at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS or by going to our website, amwtips.com. Let's bring McKenna home. When we come back, 2 young boys disappear from their own backyard, and authorities need your help to reunite them with their family. Welcome back to America's Most Wanted. Take a look at the faces of these 2 missing California boys tonight. That's 4-year-old Oren West on the left and his 3-year-old brother Orson on the right. Their adoptive parents said that the boys were last seen at their home on the 10,700 block of Aspen Avenue in California City. The 2 were playing in their fenced-in backyard when they mysteriously vanished. The reward for information that helps find the two boys is up to $120,000. The money is a combined effort from the extended West family, the Victory Baptist Church, California City, and local businesses. If you have seen Orrin or Orson West, call us right away at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS or go to our website, amwtips.com. We'll be monitoring the site as well as getting your reactions on social media, like this tweet we just got. Can't wait to watch the hardest of criminals getting caught by Americans who might have heard something, seen something, and then said something in hopes to put closure to hardships of families all over the country. Thank you. Neither can we. Let's get our final look now at the criminals that are still on the run tonight. First, Glenn Godwin, wanted for murder and on the run since 1991. He's 6 feet tall, weighing about 180 pounds, with green eyes and salt and pepper hair. He was last seen in Mexico and may be living in a Latin American country. In New York, police say Eugene Palmer shot his daughter-in-law, Tammy, after a nasty family fight. He is 81 years old, around 220 pounds, and 5 feet 10 inches tall. He is an avid outdoorsman and hunter and was last seen in Stony Point, New York, and could potentially be armed and dangerous. And 50-year-old Jennifer Settle, who last was seen in South Carolina before fleeing with her daughter, McKenna. Settle is petite. She's 5'3", 110 pounds, with light brown hair and brown eyes. If you have any information, call 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS or go to amwtips.com. Coming up next week on America's Most Wanted, a woman police say killed and dismembered her boyfriend. We have new clues and we need your help. You are the ones who can bring these criminals to justice. And remember, these are dangerous fugitives. Do not approach them if you see them in public. Contact authorities immediately. Any and all information you might have helps get us one step closer to finding them. America, it's good to be back. Let's catch these guys. Good night.
I'm John Walsh, and I've dedicated my entire life to locking up the worst criminals. Since 1988, we've caught 1,191 fugitives.
We're tracking down one of the most ruthless gangs of lawbreakers we've ever gone after,
including several of the FBI's most wanted. And we've reunited dozens of missing children with their families. But the job continues, and this time, my son Callahan joins the fight. With your help, we're going to put more low-life criminals behind bars, including these that you'll see tonight. Up first, Cesar Colin brutally stabbed his girlfriend after she decided to end their relationship. See how some inventive and heroic police work pieced this crime together. Next, police say Aaron Paul Victory is a career criminal with a rap sheet a mile long. His last known crime was escaping from jail after being arrested on gun charges. And finally, two sisters in Florida created a viral campaign on social media to find a suspected child predator, their own father. America's Most Wanted is the original true crime series. You can run, but you can't hide. Hello, everybody. I'm John Walsh.
And I'm Callahan Walsh.
And this is America's Most Wanted. We're back tonight with a whole new batch of fugitives that really need to be brought to justice. And with your help, we can do exactly that.
We have an incredible team of investigators with both local and state police and the FBI ready for your tips. Call 866-AMW-TIPS or go to amwtips.com. Remember, no tip is too small, and we promise you can remain anonymous.
In the early morning of November 20th, 2016, authorities got a 911 call from an unidentified woman. They didn't know who or why she was calling, But her screams from the other end of the line made it obvious that she really needed help, and quick. With some keen detective work, the police discovered her location and snapped into action. Wait until you see this heroic story play out.
I've been in policing a long time, almost 30 years. As a police officer, a domestic disturbance, we also refer to those as family violence. Those are some of the most dangerous situations an officer can respond to. Many officers throughout the country have lost their lives responding to these types of cases. On the night of the attack, Colleen, our suspect, was the boyfriend of Gloria. They had been out. She had made a decision that she did not want to remain in the relationship.
November 20th, 2016, Colleen and Gloria had arrived home in the early morning hours. Gloria was not feeling well, so Colleen became upset because she refused to have sex with him. Colleen began taking Gloria's clothes off. She repeatedly told him no. Colleen told her if she called 911, he would kill her, except she had already called 911 at that point.
911, what's your emergency?
And then he hears the dispatcher's voice on the other end of that phone. It appears, and that's when he begins his attack and stabs her multiple times. The 911 dispatcher could not ascertain what exactly was going on, but she did hear a female screaming for help.
911, white settlement.
At some point while being stabbed, Gloria was able to get Colleen off of her and eventually made her way outside into the neighbor's home. Colleen had taken Gloria's phone away from her and ran out the back door with both Gloria's phone and the bloody knife to the neighboring street, where he dropped both the phone and the knife, and we believe that he fled the area.
Hello?
Luckily, the phone was able to stay connected, and the 911 dispatcher heard everything.
All units responding. You copy.
About 6:15 a.m., I was dispatched to an open 911 call. In my 12 years of law enforcement, I've never seen a case as heinous as this one.
What's the address again? Within 16 meters of Whitney Drive. It was a female screaming. Okay. You didn't get any information? Oh, no, I didn't get anything past the screaming.
As the officers get into the area, it was very challenging because we didn't have an address. But because we had an open 911 call, we're assuming if we find the phone, we're going to find the victim. The dispatcher became very creative and decided to direct officers based upon the sounds being heard on the open 911 call through the 911 system. We had officers that would honk their horn so that they could determine, based upon the dispatcher, whether those sounds were getting louder or not.
I remember asking if she could hear dogs barking and what we could hear and trying to compare it, and it was very similar to playing Marco Polo.
As they got closer, those sounds were getting louder, and the officers were getting closer to where we believe the victim may be.
There's the phone right there. There's the phone, there's a knife.
Bloody knife.
Oh, lovely.
So now the officers have the phone, the knife, that are both covered in blood. The questions on officers' mind at this time is, where is the victim and where's the attacker?
When we respond to domestic violence calls, dispatch checks what we call a premise history. So the dispatcher started checking the area where the phone was pinging, and that led us to this location which had 2 prior domestics.
61, I'm going to have a fairly massive amount of blood in the front doorway and sidewalk. Police!
Now, those police officers and the 911 operator were really quick on their feet. It goes to show you what they're willing to do to save a life.
Yeah, when you dial 911, it doesn't send a pin of your exact location to authorities. The information that a 911 dispatcher receives can place you anywhere from 50 to 300 yards away from where you actually are. And 300 yards is about 3 football fields, which is a pretty big difference, especially in an emergency.
Now, when we returned, the police had found the victim's cell phone, but could they find the victim? We'll talk to 2 of the sergeants on duty that night. Plus, convicted criminal Aaron Paul Victory had managed to escape out of state prison not once, but twice. And in 2017, he was behind bars again and was about to escape for the 3rd time. And later, a pair of brazen thieves break into a used car dealership, stealing 2 cars worth tens of thousands of dollars from this family-owned business. Now, stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to America's Most Wanted. As we saw before the break, the White Settlement, Texas police had arrived on the scene to find a cell phone, a bloody knife, and a massive amount of blood. But they still needed to find the victim and her attacker. But what they decided to do next was really amazing.
I hear a faint female voice to my right. I grab my flashlight, look over, and I see a massive amount of blood on the front of another home 2 doors down, and a woman slumped beneath the door, not moving. Officer Tibbet arrives with me at the front of the house, assists with putting a tourniquet on Gloria's arm where she'd been stabbed in the artery and lost a massive amount of blood.
As Gloria is in and out of consciousness, she calls out her attacker's name.
Cesar what?
So with officers now having a name of Gloria's attacker, they find a truck parked in front of her original residence.
Henry North King 4357, Henry North King 4357.
They run the plates and it comes back to Cesar Colin, but he was nowhere to be found. Gloria was brought to a local hospital in critical condition. Officer Brown confirmed with medical staff that Gloria had 5 deep critical stab wounds and was currently in surgery.
The next step was to clear the house.
Police department! 61, we cleared the house in the backyard. Holy cow. Yeah. Stabbed her in the bedroom, it looks like. Yeah.
They clear the house. They determine there is no other victims and the suspect is at large. The good news in this case is that she made a full recovery.
The fact that our 911 dispatcher worked with our team of officers to direct them to the phone,
which was found in only a few minutes within a 1-mile radius, is what saved Gloria's life.
Stay with me, Gloria, okay?
Unfortunately, we were never able to find where the suspect was located. Investigators believe that the fugitive escaped back to Mexico based on several interviews with the victim, people that knew Cesar. There's a level of frustration that creeps in on calls like this because he's still out there. We absolutely believe the suspect is still very dangerous. And so that's why it's so important that we get extra eyes and ears on this case. We asked viewers to look at the photographs that we have at the time. We are really optimistic that somebody knows something that can lead us to Cesar Colin. Do the right thing and give us the call that we need so that we can bring justice to Gloria.
It was the clever thinking of that 911 dispatcher and the White Settlement Police that saved that victim's life. 2 of the sergeants that were on duty are here with us tonight, Sergeant Lana Cook and Sergeant John Banner.
Great to have you guys here.
Thank you for having us.
This is a story with a happy ending, but not such a happy start. You know how urgent it is to find this lady. What are you thinking about while all this is happening?
We see a massive amount of blood. A 911 call had come in. I've got a horribly injured woman, and we don't know if the suspect is around us, if he's in the area. Are there any other victims inside the house? And what more resources we can get on scene to get it figured out.
Now you're thinking all the calculating stuff. What were you thinking emotionally?
We don't know where this person is, and it can be frightful not knowing what you're going to enter, what you're going to see, what you're going to find. The tragedy of what,
might have a very bad ending.
Yes, exactly. Domestic violence is a very serious situation to be in, and it only gets worse.
Once it begins, it does not stop. and these guys are cowards for what they do.
Real cowards. You know, people say, oh, it's just an argument between the boyfriend, girlfriend, and it's not. It's very violent for the responding cops, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
It's full of emotion and super unpredictable. It's also one of the most common calls that we go to.
So you risk your life every day you roll out. And what would it mean to you guys, the 911 operator, and especially to the victim who is still looking over her shoulder? If we caught this guy, what would that mean to all you guys?
It'd mean a great deal. I believe she would not be living in fear anymore, and just to see justice would be a great value to her.
It's a representation that people who do these things are not going to get away with it, and that people do have resources to reach out, and people will help.
I want to thank you and the 911 operator for helping this victim. You probably saved her life, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Glad to.
Colleen is wanted for first-degree aggravated assault. He's now 38 years old with black hair and brown eyes. He's 5'7", and when last seen, weighed 175 pounds. We have an AMW age progression of what Cesar Colleen might look like today. Now, this stabbing occurred in White Settlement, Texas. And while authorities know that Cesar Colleen has family in Grand Prairie, Texas, they do believe he fled to Mexico following this attack. Please send us your tips. Whether you're here in the U.S. or our friends in Mexico, every tip gets us one step closer to catching this guy. Don't forget, we guarantee you can remain anonymous. Call us or go to our site, 866-AMW-TIPS or amwtips.com. You can run, but you can't hide.
Next up, Aaron Paul Victory, a convicted career criminal with a really long list of priors, including not one, not two, but 3 charges for escaping imprisonment. Now we need your help to catch him. And later on, an alleged sexual offender is outed on social media by his very own daughter.
This man is a vile human.
We'll speak to her and her sister about their work to get justice for his victims. But first, also throughout the show, we'll be spotlighting local crimes from all over the U.S., perhaps even from your own community. Can you help us solve this one? Unbelievable surveillance video of 2 thieves breaking into a used car dealership in Goshen, Ohio. It happened at Upscale Auto, located at 6991 Thompson Road. Watch as one of the suspects seems to be on a cell phone call, and we're about to find out who's on the other end of the line. But first, the suspect sneaks around the back of the dealership, spots his literal window to opportunity, and breaks it, ripping out the blinds. The second suspect shows up, and suspect 1 jumps in the window, squeezes his way through, and grabs numerous car keys off the rack, handing them off to his dirtbag buddy who's waiting outside. These 2 creeps managed to steal 2 BMWs, a 2013 BMW 5 Series and a 2014 4 Series, worth tens of thousands of dollars from this family-owned small business. So if you know anything about this incident or recognize these suspects, please contact us immediately, 866-AMW-TIPS or amwtips.com. Welcome back to America's Most Wanted. You know, Aaron Paul Victory is the kind of criminal who just won't quit, proving time and time again that he simply refuses to obey the law. Whether it's his mile-long rap sheet or his multiple jailbreaks, this guy is desperate, and for years has been a thorn in the side of every law enforcement officer in Oklahoma.
Aaron Paul Victory is a career criminal who is armed and dangerous and currently on the run in southeastern Oklahoma. He's got 24 charges and 15 convictions, ranging from grand larceny to burglary, false imprisonment, to escape from confinement.
The rough and tough life of Aaron Victory could be accumulated back to his father. You didn't mess with Johnny Victory. Back in 1987, Aaron Victory was a small child, hid back behind the couch when Johnny Victory was murdered. I'm sure it did play some role in his mental state throughout his life.
And it wouldn't be long before Victory began his life of crime. Back in 2006, while serving a sentence for grand larceny, Aaron Paul Victory escaped from prison while picking up trash. This wasn't the last time Victory would defy the law. He actually committed more crimes in the years to come, including gun charges, eluding a police officer, and escaping from jail a second time in 2012. On the morning of December 27, 2016,
911, what's your emergency?
Aaron Paul Victory committed a residential burglary. Responding officers, Sheriff Fark and Inspector Epley, catch a lucky break when they see two men acting suspicious near the crime scene.
On the way there, this pickup pulls out. There were two male subjects in it, and he just kept glaring at us.
I turned on my lights, and at that point, they just took off.
There was a quick chase of 5 to 6 miles before Victory turned onto an access road. And the chase continued.
I see Mr. Aaron Victory come out with a pistol, so I shoot a round off from my rifle.
Victory took off, disappears into the trees and brush, and he escaped. I go around and remove Rocky Duncan at gunpoint.
Mr. Victory grew up in a very rugged environment, avid outdoorsman, enjoys staying out in the woods for an extended period of time. So I radioed for additional units to come help.
All units responding.
We are on the east end of Choctaw-McCurtain County line. Anything north or south was wooded area.
We're talking about an 800 square mile area full of dense trees and brush. Victory grew up here. He knows the area well. He's a lifelong criminal who is armed and dangerous, a threat to everyone in the vicinity.
We called in every available neighboring agency. We had several locations that were searched with no luck. We were able to get search warrant for cell phone locations, started piecing together who this man would call, where he would go. Ended up, we were able to locate him in Antlers, Oklahoma, about 30 miles north.
It didn't take long for the family or the people of Choctaw-McCurtain County area to know that Mr. Victory was on the run.
Around 11 p.m. at a distant relative's home in Antlers, Oklahoma, 37-year-old Aaron Paul Victory was arrested. But he wouldn't be behind bars for long. You can't deny that Victory was a smart guy and has spent his whole life in and out of the system. But I'll tell you, Cal, these guys will do anything to get out of prison. Think about Alcatraz. Way back in '62, those guys made fake heads out of paper mache to trick the guards so they could make a run for it.
It is fascinating, but it's not as easy to escape jails and prisons nowadays. In fact, there was a study done by the Prison Journal that said 92% of prison jailbreaks are actually unsuccessful.
But that doesn't mean there isn't a lot of them. Escapes happen every single day. They're much more common than you'd think. It's not always as sensational as you see on TV or maybe in the movies, but a lot of times it can be a guy walking right out of a low-security jail. And on that note, a special alert to correctional officers. We found several of America's most wanted fugitives because of you. Victory could be easily incarcerated right now under an alias, so be on the lookout. When we come back, we'll learn more about Victory's next skillful escape and speak to a survivalist to give you the information you'll need to look out for him. And later, a 67-year-old Vietnam vet is robbed of his entire life savings in the middle of the night. Can you help us catch the men behind it? But right now, it's time for another look back at the AMW vault and one of my all-time favorite captures, John List. This absolute monster killed his entire family and was on the run for over 18 years until we featured him right here on America's Most Wanted. Watch this.
To many, John List was a most unlikely murder suspect. He was a college-educated accountant and a father of 3 who taught Sunday school. But when List lost his job and he couldn't pay the bills, family pressures started piling up. On November 9th, 1971, he systematically executed his entire family, his wife, his 3 children, and his own mother. For 18 years, the police had no idea where he was. We decided to try something that had never been done. We asked forensic sculptor Frank Bender to create a bust of what an elderly John might look like. On May 21st, 1989, we aired the gruesome story of John List. And after 18 years on the run, you caught List in just 11 days. The bust was a perfect match.
And with your help tonight, I know we can bust even more of these lowlifes. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to America's Most Wanted. Aaron Paul Victory was a career criminal, willing to do whatever it took to avoid serving time, even pulling a gun on the Choctaw County sheriffs before his last arrest in late 2016. Soon after, he was incarcerated again. But again, he wouldn't be there for long.
A few months after being arrested, on February 17th of 2017, a federal warrant was issued for Victory for being a felon in possession of a firearm and possessing a stolen firearm.
Victory pled guilty in federal court. Then on May 10th, 2017, Victory was extradited back to Choctaw County, where he was charged with the initial state crimes of second-degree burglary and grand larceny in Choctaw County District Court. But unfortunately, the jail's dorm was no match for Victory.
He was able to etch out the sealant in the glass, and then he was able to squeeze through, it wasn't 10 inches wide, into a recreational area.
He tore up sheets, which he tied in knots and used as a makeshift rope.
There was actually an old school lunchroom table. So Mr. Victory flipped it up on its end and used the seats to climb up. There was a box that had Christmas lights. So Mr. Victory took those lights and was able to throw them up and get it hooked around one of the bars. And it was just strong enough, he was able to crawl up and went right through a 30-foot tall skylight.
Aaron Paul Victory has proven to be resourceful, clever, and agile, but also extremely dangerous. And he's willing to do anything to survive.
I really think that someone along the way had picked him up, family or something like that, because it didn't take long before he's gone.
U.S. Marshals were on site in Choctaw County trying to run down leads, but Victory has almost 40 years of knowledge of that area. We have reason to believe that Victory is hiding out on tribal land in Oklahoma, living off the land and probably getting help from family and friends.
The original charge had him committing an armed robbery and then pointing a weapon at police officers. So he is still considered armed and dangerous. Because Victory has been escaped since 2017, he's had about 6 years to get into a routine. So we're hoping that he might be getting a little sloppy now and that we might be able to capture him. He's a danger to the community.
Victory is a career criminal. The longer he's on the run, the more crimes he could commit, putting innocent people in danger.
He's been on the run 6 years. That's got to take a toll on somebody because you can never let your guard down all the way. So complacency is a killer. Eventually he will make a mistake. He's got to be right every time. We only have to be right once.
We're now joined by backcountry skills expert Craig Cottle. Thanks for being here, Craig.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Hope to learn a lot from you. Okay, what do you teach people?
I teach people how to be in the outdoors safely and how to do survival and tracking.
Victory had 15 prior convictions and did spend time in prison. What are some of the parallels between prison life and staying alive out in the wild?
Well, I think the big thing is problem solving, critical thinking. He's already demonstrated that he knows how to solve problems with minimal resources. That's survival at its best right there.
Mm-hmm. How long do you think he could be out there alone?
I spent 30 days in the woods with nothing but a knife. And the second time I did it, I nearly starved to death.
Yep.
It's going to be difficult for him to live off the land like we have this romantic version that people can do that.
No.
It's nearly impossible without extensive training or support from others.
You've been in many areas like this.
I have.
Some of the guys I've profiled stayed out there a long time by breaking into cabins, with eating canned food or good bottled water in there. Are there enough cabins around in that area or campsites?
It seems like every time a news story like this happens where somebody's been living off the land, they've been doing exactly that. They've actually been taking supplies, stealing supplies, or being supported by other people with supplies to make it happen.
Right.
Let's say he is existing out there alone. What are some of the public places where he might be spotted?
Behind a restaurant, behind a convenience store, in the bathroom of a convenience store, anywhere where he can go and get clean water,
right?
Where he can go find the food. Food is not necessarily a survival need real quickly, but we all want it rather quickly because we're used to eating on a daily basis. So he'll be going to places like that to find food and water.
I know several guys we've hunted down in the wilderness. They usually came in, they were starving or they were sick. That's how we caught them.
We as a species need the same thing. All of us need the same thing. He needs safety and security, shelter, water, and food. Whether he finds that in the environment or whether he gets that support from an urban or suburban area is going to be up to him.
Well, thanks for being with us.
Thank you
for all the tips.
letting me be here. Absolutely.
I hope our viewers can take your advice and keep their eyes peeled for this dirtbag.
Aaron Paul Victory is 6 feet 2 inches tall with brown hair and brown eyes. When he was last seen, Victory weighed around 200 pounds. Victory is now 45 years old and heavily tattooed. He has tattoos on his arms, back, and left shoulder. Check out how distinctive the ones are on his right arm and right leg. He also has visible scars on his head and right cheek. We have an AMW age progression of Victory and what he may look like today, and another one with a beard, which he may be wearing to hide his features. Victory escaped from Choctaw County Jail in Hugo, Oklahoma, but he has ties to McCurtain County in Oklahoma as well, where his ex-wife lives. Recently, investigators have reason to believe that Victory could also be hiding out on tribal land in Oklahoma. There have also been sightings of him in Mississippi and in Oregon, where his relatives live. Do not approach Aaron Paul Victory if you see him. Instead, please call us or go to our site immediately, 866-AMW-TIPS or at amwtips.com. You can always remain anonymous.
Next up, the daughter of an alleged sex offender finds out about her father's charges and takes a stand on social media.
This man is a vile human.
Have you seen this creep, Davy Albaron? But now, we need your help to solve this crime alert. Heartbreaking footage of a robbery that took place at an elderly veteran and his bedridden wife's home in Sacramento earlier this month. Around 1 a.m., two masked gunmen kick in Marine Vietnam vet Marlon Harris's door on the 6600 block of Pomegranate Avenue with their firearms drawn. These dirtbags know right where they're going, Harris's bedroom, to grab a safe containing his entire life savings. They make him kneel on the ground with his hands up and a gun pointed at his head so that they can grab the safe, containing over $36,000 in cash. Every penny that Harris and his wife had saved and were going to use to pay for their extensive health care bills. It's the healthcare workers, a rotating staff of caregivers, according to Harris, who were the only ones outside of him and his wife that knew about the safe. Now take another good look at them. One of the suspects appears to have a tattoo on his arm. Look familiar? If you know anything about this horrible burglary or live in the Sacramento area and recognize these men or their voices, call us or send us your tips immediately. Welcome back to America's Most Wanted. You know the number one goal for AMW is to find fugitives, but also to find as many missing children as we possibly can. Sharing the names and faces of these little ones can save their lives, plain and simple. So, this week, we need your help to find 4-year-old Stephen Bryant. His last known location was Indianapolis, Indiana, on June 9th, 2022. Stephen has light brown hair and dark blue eyes. When he was last seen, he was about 3 feet tall and weighed about 35 pounds. Authorities believe that Stephen could currently be in Bedford or Mooresville, Indiana. So if you've seen Stephen Bryan, call us or send us your tips at 866-AMW-TIPS or amwtips.com. Let's get this little boy home where he belongs. Cal, what's our next case?
In 2022, Anna Alberon found out her father was on the run after being charged for sexual battery, lewd and lascivious molestation, and child abuse with 2 minor victims. Anna took to social media to share her family's story and to ask for the public's help in finding her dad, so his victims can get the justice they deserve. Her post went viral, getting the attention of people across the country, including everyone here at America's Most Wanted. We're going to talk with Anna and her sister, but first, watch this.
2 sisters in Florida are using social media to create a viral campaign to capture an alleged child predator that they know all too well.
So this is my father. He's Osceola's most wanted for his crimes against kids.
When his last victim came out, who happened to be my daughter, everything came out.
So I found out last year that my father hurt my niece. I got upset and I posted this on Facebook. Like, in a matter of hours, this was viral.
Their efforts have been so successful that even the local sheriff's department is joined in on the viral campaign.
It's the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. We have a warrant for Davey Alberon for his arrest for the acts that he did against 2 young girls. Thank God for the courageous acts of coming forward to help us get this scumbucket off the streets for what he did.
I just want to give a big thank you to everyone who's been helping us and supporting us and donating to either the billboard, sharing and reposting our videos, spreading the word and keeping an eye out and sending in tips. Like, that means a lot to my family and I.
This man is a vile human, and I feel like because I'm his oldest and I'm his first, I need to find him. Like, there's just something in my soul that will not stop until I do. Because all I care about is finding my dad.
Davey Alberon's beautiful daughters, Anna and John Ady, are with us. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
You are so brave. You are so brave
Thank
and
you.
tough. First, let's start at the beginning. How did you find out?
So I actually got a phone call from my sister, and she told me that my child had said that Davey had been sexually abusing her the last few months, and my heart dropped.
What did you think?
I was devastated. My dad was my best friend, and I couldn't believe that he did that.
Horrible nightmare.
Yeah.
Horrible nightmare.
As a father, you're supposed to protect your
Hell
family.
yes. Hell
You're
yes.
supposed to protect your family, not supposed to harm them.
How difficult was it for you to discover this information about your father?
The most heartbreaking thing I've ever had to deal with in my life. I had to be strong for my child while I was breaking down, on the inside. Every day I'd be crying. I couldn't even tell her till days later because I felt like I failed my child, and I just didn't even know how to speak up about it out loud. I couldn't believe that I was going through something like this. I couldn't believe my child was dealing with something like this.
Do you think there could be other victims out there potentially?
I think possibly there is, because when I posted him on social media, I was flooded with DMs of other people that allegedly said that he had also victimized them as children. Like, my worst nightmare is that I don't catch him in time and then he hurts someone else.
What a coward. You're way braver than him, way stronger.
Thank you so much.
And his daughter, she was so happy, her child. She's like, we did it. Like, when she knew he was safe.
Literally the night before we came out here, she was just so happy that we were even going to be on the show.
What would you want to say to him?
How dare you? How dare you? I trusted you with what was most precious to me, and you betrayed my trust. You traumatized my child for the rest of her life. I just turn yourself in. That's all I can say. Turn yourself in. We're not going to stop.
I'm a grandfather. We decided to do this. He's on my personal top 10, and I never quit. We never quit. We'll catch that dirtbag, I guaranteed. And then he's going to pay. He's going to pay. But I got to tell you, I am so impressed by your strength. My wife always said to me, remember who the real victim is, your daughter.
Yeah.
You got to fight for her. We're going to get him. You'll get your justice.
Thank you so much.
God bless.
Davey Alberon is a 51-year-old Hispanic male with brown eyes and black hair. He's 6'1", and when last seen, weighed 220 pounds.
Now, he's got many identifying features, so please take a good hard look at this lowlife. He's got a big scar on his left thumb from when he cut the tip of his finger off. Another scar above his left eyebrow on his forehead. A scar on the top of his left hand, as you see here in these pictures. A very distinct vein under his left eye, crooked teeth. The front four of his upper teeth go inward. And he also has a strong New York accent, and he speaks Spanish.
Now let's take a look at the map and see the possible places he could be hiding. According to his daughters, he's known to frequent St. Cloud, Florida, where he's being charged, as well as Kissimmee, Florida. His last reported sighting was in November 2023 in Lakeland, Florida. Davey Albaran also has a lot of family in Puerto Rico, specifically the areas of Ponce and San Lorenzo.
Let's find this coward scumbag. So if you've seen Davey Albaran or have any information about this case, for our friends here and our friends in Puerto Rico and beyond, please contact us now at 866-AMW-TIPS or at amwtips.com. I guarantee you, I'll say it again, I guarantee you can remain anonymous. Just have the courage to make that call and make these kids' lives better. When we return, a recap of all the dangerous fugitives that we discussed tonight. But right now, can you help us solve this local crime alert? 5 thieves stealing up to $250,000 in luxury goods during a brazen afternoon robbery at a Chanel store in Washington, D.C. last December. It happened at the City Center, D.C. on I Street Northwest at around 5:30 p.m. Here are the suspects entering the store from all different directions. 2 are dropped off by this white sedan, possibly a Mercedes. One of the men is carrying a fire extinguisher, which he uses to spray an armed security officer on duty. As they make their way in, the suspects ransack the shelves, grabbing as many handbags as they can. The suspects then flee the scene, but surveillance captured a clear image of one of them. Look familiar? Then do the right thing and contact us immediately. 866-AMW-TIPS or amwtips.com. Remember, you can run, but you can't hide. Two robberies almost 5 months apart, happening in the same Spanish Fort supermarket, and authorities have reason to believe they're connected. The incidents took place at the Publix at 10179 Eastern Shore Drive. Here's a shot of the 2 female suspects who police believe were involved. Watch closely as the one in peach follows an elderly victim, boldly snatching her wallet out of her purse, just inches from the victim's face. Over $5,000 worth of prepaid gift cards were purchased at a nearby Sam's Club. And the shady suspects are at it again, just weeks ago on January 20th around 10:40 a.m. This time it's 2 females and 1 male suspect. They walk close to the victim, and while the male suspect distracts her, the other goes for her wallet. This time, charging the victim's credit card for over $2,000. Police believe this woman was part of both incidents, but that all of the suspects are part of a larger ring of thieves in the area. So if any of these dirtbags look familiar, call us or go to our site right now. Now, if you know anything about any of the fugitives you've seen tonight, please have the courage to do the right thing and contact us immediately. Cesar Colleen is now 38 years old with black hair and brown eyes. He's 5'7", and when last seen about 175 pounds. He's wanted for first-degree aggravated assault and is considered extremely dangerous. Authorities believe he fled to Mexico, but he still could be somewhere in Texas.
Aaron Paul Victory escaped the Choctaw County Jail in Hugo, Oklahoma in 2017. He's 6'2" with brown hair and brown eyes. When he was last seen, Victory weighed around 200 pounds. He's now 45 years old. He not only has visible scars on his head and right cheek, he's also heavily tattooed. He has tattoos on his arms, back, and left shoulder. Check out how distinctive the ones are on his right arm and right leg. He's considered armed and very dangerous.
Davey Albaran is a 51-year-old Hispanic male with brown eyes and black hair. He's 6'1", and when last seen, weighed 220 pounds. His last known location was Lakeland, Florida. He's got many identifying features. A big scar on his left thumb, another scar above his left eyebrow on his forehead, a scar on the top of his left hand, a very distinct vein under his left eye that is always visible. His top 4 teeth are angled inward, and he has a strong New York accent and speaks fluent Spanish.
These guys really aren't anyone to mess with. If you see them, do not approach them. Call us or go to our site now, 866-AMW-TIPS or amwtips.com. There's no time to waste. Please, if you know something, give us that call.
Coming up next week, the mysterious disappearance of a Michigan man left his friends and family desperately looking for him and looking for answers. The victim's body and the suspect are still nowhere to be found, over 20 years later. On an all-new America's Most Wanted next week, we dive into this cold case with Up and Vanished podcaster Payne Lindsay in studio to try to bring this victim the justice he so deserves.
I'm Callahan Walsh.
And I'm John Walsh. And thank you so much for watching. And remember, please, you can make a difference. Good job tonight.